Everything you ever experienced happened inside of you. Inside of you is the only place where you can experience since your birth. Different organs are delivering information to the inside of you in order to create the experience. But everything is inside of you, and you have experienced the world. And therefore there's a whole world inside of you. Everything there's outside, there's inside. Outside is just a symbol. Inside, it exists in a complete range of potential experience. Inside, it exists on so many different dimensions, where each one of us is experiencing the same symbol, but from a very different perspective. An important line we want to draw in the world inside of us. The line between what was created by a power beyond us, and when I say us, I mean the conscious mind at this point, and what was created by us. This is a very important line. Us is not just the conscious mind in you, us, the conscious mind in all of humanity. What was created unconsciously, and therefore is a direct expression of the infinite will, and what was created consciously, and therefore, depending on how finely tuned that consciousness is, we might be very distant from the infinite will. Even though, of course, if we look from a perspective that's far enough, everything is the infinite will. There can be nothing that would ever violate the infinite will in any way. However, from our perspective, where we associate pleasure with the accurate manifestation of the infinite will, and pain as a manifestation that's not friendly to humanity. So we strive for a time of peace. We strive for a time where all the forces are united. They're no longer competing and fighting with each other. And so therefore we call what is aligned with that destiny the infinite will, and what is still preventing that destiny from manifesting, we call that the areas of human consciousness that are opposed to the infinite will. And so we're drawing a line between the opportunity that was given to us and what we have done with that opportunity. And this line is not easy to draw. And yet, if we don't draw this line, then we cannot appreciate the opportunity that we were given. If we look at ourselves without that line, if we look just at the whole of what's available to us, it doesn't seem like much. But if we can perceive what was made available to us, and then perceive separately what we've done with that opportunity, individually and as a family, as a community, as a species. So then we can start appreciating the vast preciousness of what is already taking place. When we draw this line between what was made available to us and what we've created with it, we have to come back to silence. This line is drawn between the part of us that happens until our silence, and then what we make of that silence. That's the line. You were created silent, with an infinite potential of different noises you can make. In order to appreciate the amount of noises you can make, and noise in this sense means thoughts, emotions, vibrations, any sort of movement, in any dimension. In order to reevaluate the types of noise you can make, you want to return to no noise at all. No noise at all was created by a power beyond your perception. All the noise already involves your translation. It's your creation. You're directing the life force to be that. It's not intrinsically that, it's a choice. So what do you really want to direct the life force to be? And this is not as simple as realizing this truth. This truth will result in a biological struggle. Our biology is not used to serving the silence. Our biology is used to serving the noise. It expects the noise. If there's no noise, it feels confused. It feels bored. It doesn't know how to create its own chemicals sometimes if there's not the right noise. And so this is going to result in a biological struggle, a struggle between the previous settings within the nerves that have managed to find some form of balance, and the intelligence that is indicating that there is a higher form of balance available. A form of balance that doesn't require noise. If we rely on a specific form of noise in order to survive, then we're dependent on it. And we're serving that. We're serving a specific concept that is driving us. And that's no longer us. We are the capacity to choose from all concepts at all times. Anything that limits our capacity to choose concepts is limiting our capacity to be ourselves. This is our inherent nature, to bring the infinite into the finite. If anyone else is involved in this transaction, if anyone else is translating for you, you're no longer being you. Everyone that's going to teach you should only teach you how to be yourself better, but never how to be them. Because then they're not teaching you, they're stealing you. And so the body is going to be inclined to create certain energies that it's relying on for its continuous function. And the intelligence is going to indicate that there can be more efficiency. So this requires transition. Transition is teaching the body new behaviors. It's just like learning anything else, like learning any sport or any type of movement. Similarly, inside the organs, we can teach the organ's movement. But this is a process. Sometimes when we try to suppress the noise becomes strongest, because there's something that we haven't seen, there's something we need to know, there's something we need to realize. We're not looking to escape reality, we're looking to delve into it more deeply. So this line that gets drawn reminds us where to return to. any time that our nervous system goes out of balance, we come back to the line. Okay, I'm not creating right, but the one who created me created right. Let's go back to what he created and reconsider. So we come back to the silence, as close as we can get to it. And that's constantly changing. External factors, internal factors, external noise, internal noise. So this silence has within it the function of all the organs. If the organs go out of balance, there's no longer silence. So the silence is not a lack of activity. The silence is efficient activity, balanced activity. All the organs are together creating a symphony that results in clear perception. This is the optimal settings of the organs. Because the goal of the organs is to create perception. Each organ has a physical component that represents physical existence, and that it assists in physical existence in some form. And each organ has a spiritual component that creates conceptual existence, emotional existence. So all the organs together are creating a symphony called consciousness. And sometimes the symphony is less pleasant to the ear. And those are the noises that we don't really appreciate, because the orchestra is just not singing on tune. And sometimes we extremely appreciate the music because everyone is playing their tune just right. And when they all play it right, the result is a basic silence. From that silence can rise emotions of gratitude or closeness. And these, or any form of positive emotions, don't disrupt the silence. They're all different chords in the music. The music that's pleasant to the ears of the heart. This music is the divine music. This music has been disrupted by the behaviors of the cultures that came and formed like a disease within humanity. Penetrated the brains and the hearts and festered there for hundreds of thousands of years, taking over the function of the entire organism until the organism no longer had a value. It was only the culture that was important. The one everything was made to serve was no longer visible or cared about. And so, on top of this symphony is the noise that we and everyone else is making. And the noise is sometimes closer to being sweet and sometimes extremely bitter. But never can it be more beautiful than the original music created by the one who designed life himself. Never can it create the balance that is already present and is being covered by the noise that is trying to pretend that it's improving it. What's already there cannot be improved. It's not meant to be improved, it's meant to be realized. It's meant to be realized for what it already is. And so all we're trying to accomplish with our conscious effort is to reveal the beauty of everything that is unconscious, so that the conscious falls in love with the unconscious again. So that the one who knows himself is in love with everything that he doesn't know and yet exists. Because that's where he's coming from. So we want everything that we create to glorify everything that created us. This is the appropriate relationship. Not to question, not to doubt, not to try to figure it out better, but rather to realize that something extremely powerful and magnificent created you. Wow. There's no words, there's no rationale, there's no correlation to anything we've seen or heard or thought. It's beyond anything that we can even imagine. We can't imagine what's happening in our body. It's just not possible for the human imagination to wrap itself around this most complex of all organisms. And so we certainly, if we can't understand anything about the physical nature of things, because even the scientists are trying to crack the smallest particles into smaller particles and even smaller particles, and there's no end in sight. Even when our equipment runs out of the capacity to do anything, there's still the reality that's creating that goes way beyond. This is the truth, this is the reality, this is who we are. We're not a theory, we're here. And so this truth is beyond all our thoughts, all we can try to understand. If we can't understand the physical, how can we dream to understand the spiritual? The spiritual is much more subtle and much more removed from our way of thinking. So how can we even question? How can we even assume to have any opinion? This is not our true nature. This is a culture that messed with us and caused us to question things that we have no business questioning, and caused us to accept things we have no business accepting. We can't question why are things the way that they are. We don't understand the first thing about anything. On what basis can we ask such a question? What we can ask, and we should ask, is how do things work so I don't cause damage? Things are the way that they are, whether we're aware of them or not. And when we violate the invisible laws, we're causing damage. This is real. This is part of the symphony that we can enhance and glorify, or we can violate and cause it to seem ugly, cause it to be something else that it wasn't meant to be. And so we can't understand the depth of the thought that creates us. But it's accurate. If it wasn't accurate, it wouldn't work. We should never assume that we've understood something on which basis we can assume that something is not accurate. We have no basis ever. Everything happens because of the rules of how reality works. Nothing happens specifically because you are the one now doing it and now therefore things are going to be different. That's never the case. Everything works based on very specific rules. Rules that are way beyond our comprehension, but they're very specific and very accurate. Everybody is going to see that everything was right. You say, oh, I didn't know that this. Okay, you didn't know. Exactly. What did we know? That's really where we have to focus, because even that we don't know. And if we're making decisions, if we're relying on things, if we're assuming, that can be very dangerous. So we want to return to that place within us, within our world, where we can start distinguishing the real and the unreal. Not everything that happens is real. When something happens, it means somebody chose to make it happen. That person can very well be wrong. Which means that for something to be real, it's understanding the intention, it's understanding how does this correspond to our real nature. What does it cause? What are the effects? Which organs does it touch? Which nerves? What is the true interaction between a concept or a behavior or a word and the human organism? This is the reality behind what we're all trying to guess. We're all guessing what is the true nature of the being that we are. None of us know. Some of us are guessing closer to core than others. Those who guess better have better access to themselves. And so the silent world is the real world. Because that's the world that supports all the activity and all the madness and all the craziness is supported by a beautiful, perfect, silent world. And it's been taken hostage by some very powerful ideas. Ideas that were designed by humans to trap humans. Ideas that cause the nervous system to serve things that don't really exist other than inside the imagination. To serve other people and not even notice that they've given away more than they know they have. They've given away the biggest opportunity of their lives, the meaning of their lives, the soul, the connection to the one who created this life. They gave that away to someone else. This is the reality. This is the nature of life. Life had a way before we came here. Life was already here doing its thing. The human species was already here doing its thing. We show up and we assume that on some level, reality is going to comply with what we assume should be. And that simply doesn't work. That's a wrong assumption. It's a very costly wrong assumption. We all make that wrong assumption because this is the nature of our culture. It's built on this assumption. It's built on the assumption that we know what needs to happen here better than the nature that created us. And therefore, we're going to take charge and do whatever is necessary. We're going to survive the roughness of nature, rather than realizing that nature is giving them all the opportunity. Even their capacity to try to outthink nature is also a power that nature gave to them. And so this is very similar to the human condition. On the individual level, in the human condition, the mind, the ideas, the beliefs have taken control of the organism, even if it's against the best interest of the organism. And so too on the collective level. Humanity, which is the thinking and feeling part of the organism of nature, has been taken hostage by ideas. Ideas that don't serve it that well. Ideas that minimize the value of being human and the access the human being will have to its own power. When human beings have ill will towards each other, powerful humans are very dangerous. The powerful are the ones who are going to cause the most damage. When human beings love each other, power is a human ally. The powerful do the most good. And so humanity had ill will towards each other. This we can see very clearly in history. And therefore humanity had an interest to limit human power, to reduce humans to make them not realize what's really taking place. Because humans have a nature. When they know a certain truth, they're going to behave accordingly. This is human nature. And so all the truths that would cause a human being to not feel comfortable following whatever the governments thought was their best way of keeping control, those parts of reality had to be blacked out, had to be somehow erased from the human awareness. And this involved burning temples, burning books, removing evidence of different forms of realizations that humans have had that are available to all of us. We all have the same organism. Whatever one human being has had proves that our species is capable of that achievement. Different people might get to different levels of that achievement. Some might get to the peak, to heights that were never visited before, and some might simply advance in that direction. But this is similar to any of the human traits, where nature creates us through such a detailed process that even though we're all the same, we're all extremely different when it comes to the subtleties of how we process life. And so we want to discover what's inside of us and yet hasn't been mentioned to us, hasn't been explained. We want to create a relationship with ourselves where our organs want to teach us how they really function, what they really want. What's the purpose of the constant chatter? Because behind every thought, there's something that is causing that thought to become. There's something real, even behind thoughts that are meaningless. There's something real behind every movement that happens in reality. There's something real. There's a reason why it happened. And that reason is an explanation. That reason takes us all the way back, if we follow it, to the infinite wisdom that created life. Every detail tells us about the whole. Every detail represents the whole. Every individual represents humanity. Every individual represents the solar system, the cosmos, the face of everything. It's one mouth, it's one representative saying his position. And so when times were difficult, people were minimized. This is exile. These are divine forces, even in those people that are causing the minimization. There's reasons. Humanity provoked these leaders to minimize them. And yet humanity is constantly trying to return to its former glory, to repent, to remember, to realize again the great potential of what it means to be us.